Hello, and welcome to Mr. Quickest Teaches. In today's lesson, I'll be providing a detailed analysis of the poem Muliebrity by Sujata BHATT. My analysis will be presented with rolling annotations of the lines and important words and phrases in the poem. I'll emphasize the themes, literary devices, both figurative and poetic, tone, structure, language, etc. of the poem. To purchase the course that provides stanza by stanza, line by line, and word for word written and video analysis of all the 15 poems in the IGCSE anthology, visit mrquickestteaches.com. The written course has been particularly helpful to students sitting the IGCSE because it gives clear guidance on the approved writing styles. Without further ado, let's demystify Muliebrity by Sujata BHATT. Let's begin by speaking about the poet. Sujata BHATT was born in Maninagar, India in 1956. She grew up in Pune, India, and in the United States. She currently lives in Germany with her husband and daughter. So she's an Indian poet. Now, the poem speaks about BHATT's experience of a girl. So it's recounted in the third person. That's a brief background before we dive into the poem. The experience of a girl and the kind of mark that a girl leaves in BHATT's mind. So BHATT recounts the poem in the first person, and we see that we're going to see that she uses a lot of olfactory imagery. That means smell, imagery of smell, to express experiences of the girl and then also of Maninagar. Let's read the poem and then we'll dive into it. Muliebrity by Sujata BHATT. I have thought so much about the girl who gathered cow-dung in a wide round basket along the main road passing by our house and the Radhavaba temple in Maninagar. I have thought so much about the way she moved her hands and her waist and the smell of cow-dung and road dust and wet canna lilies, the smell of monkey breath and freshly washed clothes, and the dust from crow's wings which smell different, and again the smell of cow dung as the girl scoops it up. All these smells surrounding me separately and simultaneously. I have thought so much, but I've been unwilling to use her for a metaphor, for a nice image, but most of all unwilling to forget her or explain to anyone the greatness and the power glistening through her cheekbones each time she found a particularly promising mound of dung. So the poem is actually 18 lines, and in the poem, BHATT sort of reminisces of her experience that she has about this girl who picks cow dung. One of the first things we see about the poem is the title, Muliebrity. Again, it's not an English word, but then the word Muliebrity, the title Muliebrity means womanhood or female characteristics. So you can see that when you read the poem, you see that BHATT seems to explore the exotic nature of the female form and the female's ability to make something that is mundane and almost something that has of ill effect, sort of make it royal and unique. And we're going to see how the girl does it. The poem also highlights the exotic nature of the female form and its ability to take varied significance. So the female person, like a female, is not just a human being, but somebody that is infused with exoticness. Like the person is exotic. The person is, royal. And that's the idea that BHATT presents in the poem. So the very first thing we see about the poem is that the poem is recounted in the first person. You see that with the first word of the poem, hi. So it's in the BHATT is telling the poet, the reader, about the experiences that she has about this girl. And she says, I've thought so much about the girl. So thought so much here suggests a deliberate and intense contemplation. So BHATT has taken a time to contemplate on the memory of the girl. About the girl tells us what BHATT is thinking about, and also the gender of the persona, that she's female. and she's really, young, because when she uses the word girl, that means it's somebody that is not yet a woman, or it's like just at a cusp of womanhood. So that's like the idea that Barth tries to present by revealing to the reader that she's thought so much about the girl. So she's taking real deep thoughts, contemplated about the memory of the girl, even as she reminisces or has this nostalgic journey down memory lane. And it's really striking because we're going to see certain things that Barth says about the girl. We also see the use of enjambment as well in the first line. The girl who, so the words sort of flow from one line into the next. The girl who gathered cow dung in a wide round basket. So the girl's occupation is to gather cow dung. It exposes the idea that the girl's job is very mundane and menial. And this job is reserved for the lowest caste in India, because in India they have like something called a caste system where people are divided into 5 castes, and this occupation of fetching or gathering cow dung is reserved for those of the lowest caste. And it's really important because in India cows are sort of revered creatures. So they are some of the creatures that they sort of have like deep reverence for. And she reveals to us that this girl's job is done using a wide round basket. So White House provides visual imagery of the basket. It's wide and it's round, and that means that when the girl fetches the dung, she places it in this basket so people around can see. So it's not like some sort of hidden job or something that is done in the night, but it's done in the view of the public. So, and the girl's tools are also simple tools, or they are simple tools. And he exposes to the reader that the persona's job is also simple. It's not, she has like a simple life, and she's somebody that is in tune with her job. She really takes her job seriously. In the third line, we see that where this happens, we are told that along the main road passing by our house. And Barth's use of the word main road for me suggests that Barth is from a more affluent family. Now I get this idea from the play by Arthur Miller, where he talks about Reverend Paris, and he says that Reverend Paris lives in a town, the middle of the town, and when you read the Crucible, you find it's in the town. And this idea is that where Barth lives is like the center of the place, an affluent place. And so, because she lives in an affluent place, she can see sort of the workings of the environment around her. So, Melrose suggests that Barth is from an affluent background. It also reveals that the persona is proud of her job because she does a job around the main road. So, it's not as if the job is hidden, but she's really proud of the job that she's able to do. And Barth describes this where she sees the girls from as her house. So, it's like a family home that she shares presumably with other family members, and that's where she sees the girls from. She continues that, and the Radhavaba temple in Maninagar. So Radhavaba temple introduces the idea of Hindu religion, the Hindu religion, and the presence of religious temples there. So there's this, other Hindu temples around this place. So the Radhavaba temple in Maninagar, and Maninagar reveals the exact setting of the poem in India. And for me, this is really striking because even though Barth is trying to recount to the reader the experiences that she has of this girl, she pinpoints the exact location. And I think that Barth does this because she wants to make the reader realize that her experiences are not fictional, but it's happening in a place that you can, if you have like a GPS device or something, you can actually find out where she's talking about. So along the main road, passing by our house and the Radhavaba temple. So if you go to Maninagar and you can find the Radhavaba temple, you can see where Barth is talking about, sort of. So this is a really striking image because it gives an idea of exactitude to the setting of the poem. Even though later on we are going to see some of the sights and sounds and smells of Maninagar. Now, one of the key things we see from the first 4 lines is the structure. Lines 1 to 4 is one sentence. So from lines 1 to 4 is one sentence. It's sort of like an introductory sentence of what's going to happen. And we also see the use of enjambment as well. And you see that words flow from the first line to the second into the third, from the second into the third, from the third into the fourth. So Lines 1 to 4 reveals the fluidity of Bhatt's memory. Her thoughts are very fluid. It's unencumbered. You know, and also the person's life that's unencumbered allows her to go through, you know, all the different aspects of society, even somewhere as rich as the main road close to the Radhavaba temple. Now, in the 5th line, what we see is an anaphora, the repetition of the word "I've thought so much" again. So Bhatt repeats the word "I've thought so much," and I think the repetition of this, the use of this anaphora, the repetition of these 5 words emphasizes to the reader that Bhatt has taken a lot of time. It emphasizes the depth, the intensity, the deliberateness of Bhatt's contemplation. She's really taking her time to contemplate, to think about the girl. So it's not some sort of like an offhand action, but it's something that she's done quite deliberately, and she wants the reader to know that. And now the second thing that she thinks about is about the way she moved, about the way the girl moved. And you see that the word "hair" is repeated in the 6th line twice. So the repetition of "hair" emphasizes the body parts, that the body parts belongs to the persona. It also reveals that she moved her parts in a way that is unique to her. The girl moved her body parts in a way that is unique to the girl. No other person can move the body parts like the girl. Bhatt, however, does not reveal to the reader how the girl moved these body parts, but she tells us that she moves her hands and her waist. Her hands here is reveals, you know, it's functional. Her hand is functional. The female hand is functional. Women are known to be very particularly strong when it comes to doing work, and more often than not, it is women that sort of uphold us, hold the family together. And she tells us here that the girl's hand is functional. It's very useful for work. It also symbolizes the girl's femininity. You know, the girl is feminine, and then the sensuality of the girl, and that's the hand. But then not only the hand, also her waist. So moving from the hands, Bhatt tells us that her waist, she doesn't reveal to the reader how the girl moves her waist, but she tells us here that the girl moves her waist, her hands and her waist. So emphasis on her, and then the body part that is moved. Waist is the more powerful symbol of the femininity and womanhood. So there's a way that the girl moved her hand, presumably with sensuality, presumably with feminine, you know, aura and mystery, mystique that made the girl sort of stand out. And because of the way the girl took on this job, you know, the mundane task, she injected a sense of exoticism, you know, exoticism, like, you know, like she made the job exotic. So it is the girl that made the mundane task of picking cow-dung something that Bhatt could never forget. And that is really striking. That tells you the power of the female form and the female or woman or a girl for that matter. In line 7, she says, "And the smell of cow dung." So the smell of cow dung, the unpleasant smell of cow excreta by the persona, harvest to be used presumably as a fuel or manure. So maybe the girl was picking it up as a fuel or for manure, and then the cow dung is also used for other religious practices in their faith, in Hinduism. So these are some of the ideas that are injected from the 7th line. And she continues that road dust and wet canal lilies. Road dust reveals that the setting has on paved roads and is presumably rural. No, there are aspects of it that is rural. If they are rural, you understand. So she's trying to tell us here that there is also the smell of road dust and wet canal lilies. For me, the smell of wet canal lilies is unfamiliar, and then it's also unfamiliar to most of the readers. But we see here that Bhatt is trying to tell us that it is not only visual imagery or the image of the girl that she uses to experience Maninagar, but also the olfactory imagery of Maninagar. And this is really striking, because when it comes to speaking about this poem for me is carried on the back of olfactory imagery or imagery of smell. Even though we are going to see that some of the smells may be unfamiliar to the reader. So I put here that Bhatt creates a powerful sense of place by a use of olfactory imagery in the 7th line. Now she continues into the 8th line and says, "The smell of monkey breath." Now we are going to see the use of juxtaposition or contrast in this line here. So she contrasts the sharp, pungent smell of monkey breath which I think is halitosis, or like, bad breath, or the general unpleasant smell of Maninagar, to the sweet smelling aromas of freshly washed clothes. So on the one extreme, we have the smell of monkey breath, and on the other, we also have the smell of freshly washed clothes. So freshly washed clothes highlights the extreme nature of the smells that are prevalent in the setting. We also see the repetition of "and." So the repetition of "and" in line 7 and 8, Bhatt's repetition of "and" highlights the individuality of each of the smells. So, and the smell of cow dung, and road dust, and wet canal lilies, and so she's highlighting that each of these smells are important in their own right. She doesn't want to fuse the smells together. She wants the reader to understand that to experience Maninagar, you must by nature experience the smells. So each of these smells are important, and they were very potent in the setting. In the ninth line, she continues and says, "and the dust from crow's wings which smell different." So Bhatt again introduces another unfamiliar smell, the dust from crow's wings which smells different. Her words suggest that the setting was an area that housed a meadow of crows. So when there's a lot of crows, it's called like a meadow of crows. Like it's a place that was like a habitat for a meadow of crows. And we see that she uses a dash after she mentions this, which is a pause. Usually when there's a dash, especially at the end of a line, or even in the middle of a line as a caesura, which you're going to see later on in the poem, indicates a pause. So it's almost as if Bhatt pauses. So dash, Bhatt uses a dash in the end of the line, indicates that she paused to catch her breath after a long monologue. Because remember, Bhatt has been speaking from the 5th line, so she speaks until the 9th line, then she pauses. And I think she also pauses because she wants to inhale, take in the smell a bit more. Bhatt again repeats, "and again." And we are going to see that the smell of cow dung is the most prevalent and the most important smell in this poem. And again, the smell of cow dung, to emphasize that the smell of cow dung was the most prevalent smell in the setting. And she continues and says, "as the girl scoops it up." So we see enjambment there as the girl scoops it up. Visual imagery, as the girl scoops it up. What does the person scoop the cow dung? Was it with her hands, or she has a device with which she scoops the cow dung? So we see that the cow dung here has a more important symbol or symbolism than just the smell. Most readers will agree that cow dung doesn't have like a good smell, but here we see that that's the girl's job, and the girl scoops it up. Now, Bhatt continues that in line 11 by stating that all these smells surrounding me separately. So all these smells surrounding me suggests that the smell bordered Bhatt on all sides. So on her right, on her left, in front of her, behind her, almost on top of her, beneath her, they were surrounding her. Like it was almost as if they created like a circle around Bhatt. All these smells surrounding me separately and simultaneously. So the smell of cow dung, road dust, wet canal lilies, monkey breath, freshly washed clothes, the smell from crow's wings, and also the smell of cow dung again a second time. All of these smells were around Bhatt. And Bhatt continues that all these smells surrounding me separately. So when she uses the use of the word separately, that suggests that the smells came to a consensus. It's almost as if the smells are like, alive, and they came together and they're like, okay, we are going to deal with her one after the other. So after cow dung, the smell of cow dung, then the smell of road dust, then there was smell of wet canal lilies, monkey breath, freshly washed clothes, one by one after the other, and then crow's wing, and then smell of cow dung again. It's like they're all going to come separately. And she continues and says, and simultaneously. So they make this pact among themselves to arrest Bhatt's attention one after the other. But then there are also aspects when they sort of break, their agreement, and they sort of try to gain our attention like in a competition. So they break the agreement that they've had to go separately, and now they are doing it simultaneously. Simultaneously suggests a sense of competition among the smells for Bhatt's attention. So I mentioned that this poem is steeped in olfactory imagery. So one of the ideas when you're answering your question on the IGCS is to speak about the incessant use of olfactory imagery, or the imagery of smell in the poem. She continues that smells surrounding me separately and simultaneously. You can see the repetition of the S sound in these lines. Sibilance. Sibilance, this is seen in the repetition of the S sound in smells surrounding me separately and simultaneously, which mimics Barth's constant inhalations and exhalations, so she does not miss any of the smells. So it's like she's breathing in and breathing out, breathing in and breathing out, and she's doing it so noisily that you can hear the sharp sound, the S sibilant sounds of her breath. We see another dash as well in the 12th line, in the middle. In this instance, it acts as a cesura in the middle of it pauses, like she pauses. And I think here again, Barth pauses because she wants to take in the smell as much as possible. She wants to bask in the smell. She continues and says, I have thought so much. So we see here that the word I have thought so much is repeated for the third time, not as an anaphora in this instance, but as a repetition. And for me, I think that this third repetition of I have thought so much suggests that Barth contemplated the memory of the girl to the third and the superlative degree. You know, when you mention something the first time, second line comparative, the third time is like the superlative degree. So Barth is trying to tell the reader here that I thought about this girl to the highest degree, to the superlative degree. And for me, I think that there's this sense of meditation, like worship, or even like Barth sort of worships the memory of the girl. So for her, the girl is not just somebody just doing some menial job and going around, but the girl, because of the way the girl has taken a job, the girl has injected some royalty to the job, some mysticism to the job, and she's made the job have more relevance than it should have. And she continues and says, but I've thought so much about the girl, but, so introduces a contrary action, and she says, have been unwilling. So unwilling suggests that there's this a deliberate action by Barth. She's taking this action with her head put together. The first thing she's unwilling to do is to use her for a metaphor. So she's saying here that she doesn't want to exploit the persona's identity, the girl's brand. It's like for her, for Barth, the girl is like a trademark. And she doesn't want to exploit the girl. She doesn't want to use the girl or confer the attributes of the girl to another person or to another thing. So for a metaphor reveals Barth's strong aversion to confer any of the persona's attribute to anyone else. And I think that Barth does this because she thinks that the girl is incomparable to anything. And she continues after a comma to say, for a nice image. Nice is one of the words that has been most abused in English language. I mean, people say, oh, it's nice, it's nice. She's saying here that Barth is saying here that I don't want to use the memory of the girl or the image of the girl for a nice image. So for a nice image reveals that Barth did not want to use the persona as a representation of anything. So she doesn't want to speak about the girl for anybody to even know about the girl. The girl is too sacred to be compared to anything, full stop. And we also see repetition of for a. So for is repeated a second time. So emphasizes the two things that Barth has sworn never to do. It's like she sworn herself to say, I'm never going to do this. So we see here that Barth worships or meditates on the image of the girl, and she thinks that the girl is too exotic to tie her to anything or attribute whatever she's doing to anything or to sort of explain her down. We see after this another dash. Barth again uses a dash a third time and a second time as a cesura to again pause a narration. So Barth pauses. And after the pause, Barth says, but most of all. So if she's all she said all along, she's trying to say here, this is the like in terms of importance, this is the most important thing that I've decided not to do. So most of all reveals that this is Barth's strongest aversion. She's unwilling to use the girl for a metaphor. She's unwilling to use the girl for a nice image. But again, to the superlative degree, the highest degree, she says she's unwilling to forget her. So unwilling is repeated the second time. So it emphasizes Barth's strong and deliberate decision not to engage in this particular kind of action. It's almost as if Barth has sworn herself to an oath. I'm never going to do this. And there are two things that she says instead of one. She says to forget her. To forget, it means that she does not want to lose the memory of the girl. She wants to have the memory of the girl forever. And the second thing that she says, or explain to anyone. Explain suggests reducing the idea of the persona so that it can be easily understood by lesser minds. So if you're explaining something, it means that you are making the thing, you're reducing the idea to a way that can be digested by somebody. And Bat is saying that she doesn't want to explain it to anyone. So when she says anyone, that means nobody, no member of her family, not even a loved one. She says she does not want to explain to the reader as well. What she doesn't. Bat doesn't want to do that because she thinks that even doing something like that will be reducing the image of the girl. Will she be willing to explain to a loved one? Bat is saying, no, I'm not willing to do that. No one. She continues and says, the greatness and the power glistening through her cheekbones. The greatness suggests that the persona possesses royalty and class. Now, imagine this image. The image of a girl who fetches cow dung, but she sort of, the aura that sort of glistens comes out of her cheekbones. Greatness. And power suggests that the girl also possesses influence and has an ability to make people do what she pleases. So you see here that Bat injects a lot of power, greatness to the female form. Glistening suggests that the persona exuded a visible, distinct glow from her cheekbones. So it's almost as if there's this light that jumps out of the persona's cheekbone. If you observe from the fourth line downwards, you see that the poet also uses Anaphora. Bat uses Anaphora as well. We see Anaphora in line 4, line 7, line 9, line 10, line 12, and line 16. And she uses this Anaphora to highlight the constant presence of the smells. And also Bat's unbroken interaction with the smells and the fluidity of her memory. So, and it's like it's going on and on. Something is adding to something, something is adding. There is no pause. There's this constancy in her experience of the girl. In line 17 and 18, she continues and says, each time she found a particularly promising mound of dung. Each time she found a particularly promising reveals the childlike excitement with which the persona reacted to a dung finds. So have this image in your mind. Whenever the girl finds cow dung, she behaves in a very excited way. The line also presents the persona as an explorer. So she's like, the girl here is not just somebody that is just picking cow dung, but somebody who is going and look for finds, like an explorer. So the line presents the persona as an explorer who has made a new discovery. And the use of the word mound of dung also provides vivid visual imagery of an unusually large sized dung. So whenever the girl finds it, the girl acts very excitedly to this image. Now we see that the poem ends without a full stop. So it actually ends with a dash. But again uses a dash to indicate another pause. But this time, it is an eternal pause that creates the effect that she suddenly stops speaking. The pause also creates suspense. So it's almost as if Bat is speaking to the reader, and she's speaking to the reader, and then suddenly she just stops speaking. It's almost as if she said enough and she's not going to say anything more about the image of the girl. So we see here that there's this sense that Bat is trying to hoard, the way we hoard things that are important to us. Bat is trying to hoard the image of the girl. The lack of end punctuation. Bat ends the poem without an end punctuation. A use of a dash suggests that she stops speaking about the persona to the reader, but she continued to think about the persona herself. So Bat is still thinking about the girl, but she's not going to share a nice thoughts about the girl with anybody. Another key thing I see about the poem is how Bat experiences the world. So I put it here, how Bat smells the world. From line 7 to 12, Bat's ability to make out so many distinct smells suggests that she possesses a heightened ability for smell. And this thing is described as hyperosomia. So we see here that the way that Bat experiences the world is through smells. It also suggests that her sense of smell is the most potent vehicle for her to experience the world. One of the ideas that this poem reminds me of is the novel by source kind that say that the title of the is about this guy who experiences the world with smells, like perfume, the story of a murderer. So when you read that novel or you watch the movie, for example, you find that this this character called Jean-Baptiste Grenouille, the way he experiences the world is through smells. And I think it's also this idea that Barthes is trying to present to the reader, that the way that she experiences the world is through smells. Now, when you're writing about the IGCSE or you're writing on the poems, one of the key things you have to speak about is the structure. So the poem is 18 lines. The entire poem is actually made up of only 2 sentences. This first sentence begins from line 1 to line 4, and then from line 5 to line 18 is the second sentence. And the second sentence ends without an end punctuation. So it's almost as if the poem is actually hanging. It's not ended. The poem is also a free verse poem. You can see that in the lack of rhyme scheme, which reveals that the poet has never spoken to anybody about the persona. So it's not like something she's spoken and rehashed so she knows how to say it. No. She's just speaking about the persona once, and so the poem does not have a rhyme scheme. Secondly, Barthes does not use a rhyme scheme because that will make it easier for people to keep the poem in their memory, and she does not want that because it is a memory that she wants to hoard. So she refuses to use a rhyme scheme because she doesn't want it to make it easy for the reader to be able to memorize what she's saying, or sort of take this image of the girl and share this image with her. She wants this image for herself. The poem also has unequal line length, which reveals the uniqueness of the persona's life. So when you look at the poem visually, you see that the poem has unequal line length, and it shows here that the girl is not trying to be like anybody. The girl is just trying to live her life. So some of the themes of the poem include the allure of womanhood, the dignity of labor, memory, people and place, nostalgia. So these are some of the ideas that are revealed by the poem. So usually the IGCSE questions usually revolve around the themes. So a question you can be asked is, how does Sujata BHATT powerfully present the theme of dignity of labor in Muliebrity? Or how does Sujata BHATT strikingly convey the idea of the allure of womanhood in Muliebrity? And you have to speak about things like the use of olfactory imagery, the use of the words simultaneously and separately, and all of that. And all of those ideas, repetition, anaphora, and all of those other devices that are used. If you've enjoyed this lesson, you can actually find the written explanation of it at mrquakersteaches.com. There you're going to find courses that allow you to customize how you learn, so you can decide to begin in any of the poems. You can also find stanza by stanza, line by line, and word for word written analysis of all the 15 poems in your IGCSE anthology. And so you can listen to them repeatedly and prepare for the exam. You can also find analysis of the prose and drama. So some of the documents or the courses you can find is Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and also the play The Crucible by Arthur Miller, as well as the 10 short stories if you're writing the short stories in your school. You can also find information on the unseen paper as well if that you need to do that. Additionally, you can sign up for private tuition, online tuition over Zoom from anywhere in the world in the IGCSE and A-level in English language, English literature, geography, and history. So you can do that as well in mrquakersteaches.com, or you can join our tribe on Telegram, Mr. Quakers Teaches IGCSE Literature, and you find our page there. So there you have it. Muliebrity by Sujata BHATT has been demystified. Until next time, bye-bye.